When you grow up in the Mennonite church, the issues involved in this national anthem debate, issues of allegiance to God and allegiance to nation, issues of peace and militarism, they get into your head, your heart, your bones, your gut from an early age. I was in second grade when I decided I shouldn't say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I didn't. As a high school student during the Vietnam War, I experimented with not standing for the national anthem, but then I decided that standing was the cost of playing basketball and football at Goshen High School, and so I stood, praying that God would understand that I was at least grumpy in my heart. Today, I don't sing the national anthem or put my hand over my heart, which is a gesture that gets way too close to devotion for my comfort, although I do always stand for the anthem out of respect for those for whom the anthem is important. In fact, in a life full of sport, as athlete and as fan, I've always considered Goshen College's no anthem practice a kind of refuge and a solace, a place where my way, my convictions were normal, not weird. No, I haven't forgotten my assign this morning and decided to oppose the anthem decision. I was a member of the task force that proposed that Goshen allow playing the anthem, and thus I support the President's Council in their decision. I do so because whether to play the anthem or not is not primarily about my personal convictions, although I am a member of this community, and so I have a voice. Neither is the anthem, in my understanding, primarily about the stance of the Mennonite Church. Although this being a Mennonite institution, that voice is very important. The right framework for making the anthem decision, I believe, is to consider the welfare of the whole Goshen College community. And when I do this, I conclude that we can afford to accommodate the wishes of the student athletes and the coaches who want to play the anthem. This is an affirmation I make not with rock-solid zeal and certainty, because I find this an anthem issue to be a complex issue par excellence, but it is where my best efforts have left me. Let me say a little bit about how I get there. The anthem is a complex issue for me because it forces me to try to find a way through the tension between two faith commitments. One faith commitment is to refuse militarism and the excesses of nationalism because Christ calls us to another way, a better way. The other faith commitment is that a Christian college must be deeply understood and constructed as a domain of hospitality, of welcome and inclusion. One commitment cannot simply trump the other. Both need to be taken seriously. In my mind, the critique of militarism and nationalism points me in one direction on this issue, but it is the commitment to hospitality that keeps the issue alive, keeps me thinking about it. Now, when I think about hospitality at Goshen College, I come to the conclusion that a Mennonite church and a Mennonite college, however closely related, are not the same thing. And the immediately relevant difference is the roles in a Mennonite church and in a Mennonite college of people who are not Mennonite. In a Mennonite church, I hope you will be very welcome, but you are going to be welcome as a guest, and there are going to be limits on your participation in the whole life of the congregation. Goshen College proceeds differently. To the 45% of our students who come from other religious traditions or no religious tradition, we say, if you can embrace our core values, that we seek to nurture graduates who are Christ-centered, passionate learners, servant leaders, compassionate peacemakers, and global citizens, even, in fact, if you can just tolerate and respect the core values, you are part of this learning community. You are not simply suffered, you are invited, welcomed, included. You are not a guest, you are family. And this must raise questions like, in light of such commitments, what obligations does Goshen College have to students who are not Mennonite? What rights do they have? Who has a voice in what decisions? So the GC community needs to ask, how far can we accommodate the desires of our diverse members? And of course, not every desire can be accommodated, but we do always need to ask the question. And so when I think about whether Goshen College can accommodate the coaches and the student athletes, my fellow Goshen College community members who want to play the anthem, I consider three main issues. The first one, not playing the anthem is an expression of Mennonite identity. And yet, due to the peculiar relationship of patriotism and sports in this country, the burden of articulating and defending this hard to explain because it is countercultural position, this practice has fallen not on the students and the faculty who have been trained and experienced in articulating this position, but on the athletic department. And frankly, this is weird. The burden is misplaced, and I want to lighten or remove it. Second consideration. When I think about what the anthem means, and I conclude that it does not have a fixed inherent meaning. Specifically, I'm being brief about something complex, but I calculate that if Goshen College makes an inclusion-driven decision to play the anthem, and if we do so in a ritual that makes clear our commitment to, quote, keep Christ's teachings, and in particular his teaching on peace foremost in our lives, a ritual that follows the anthem with the prayer of St. Francis, it would be hard for anyone to go away with the idea that Goshen College supports militarism and nationalism. Third consideration. I look around me and judge that Goshen College has a peace culture in vibrant good health. Yes, I will be happy to sit down with you and complain about what ought to be, perhaps starting with, why do some Mennonite young people not understand their own heritage better? But by just about any comparative measure, it's hard to imagine a place where peace has a more prominent role, where it is more honored, more reflected upon, more acted on. And so I consider these three factors: the misplaced burden imposed by the no anthem policy, the possibility of shaping the anthem, the interpretation of the anthem in our context, and GC's rich peace culture, and I conclude we can afford this. We can afford to honor the desire of community members who want to play the anthem. For those of us who have wanted not playing the anthem to be a witness in relation to militarism and nationalism, we will need to find other ways, and we can. Now, I am simultaneously really tired of this issue, and I am energized by some of the new things we can all learn in the year-long review process ahead and even beyond.